Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Mobile 360 Digital Societies, and welcome to Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur for the ones traveling from out of town. I'm Claude Ashkar. I'm managing partner of Actel Consulting. We're a specialist tech advisory firm. Before I go on and talk about anything else, I would like to thank the sponsors, particularly host sponsor Axiata, headline sponsor FiberHome, headline sponsor FiberHome, industry sponsors E.co, Gigabyte, Huawei, and Telepin. Mobile partners, DG and YTL. And supported by MCMC and the Malaysian Convention and Exhibition Bureau. So our theme today is connected platforms, with all that entails in terms of digital lifestyle, digital citizenship, digital identity, digital commerce, connectivity, cybersecurity. We have a terrific lineup of speakers. And so that you remember the agenda, on the back of your badge, there's a QR code, so you can scan it for the latest agenda at any time. So over 3 days, we're going to have keynotes, fireside chats, panels, workshops, so everybody can contribute. So without further ado, I would like to kick it off then and welcome Louise Easterbrook, CFO of the GSMA.
Good morning, everyone. Let me start with a question. How many of you use Grab, Gojek, Spotify, Uber, WhatsApp, or WeChat? And how many of you have heard of these companies 10 years ago? So I can see lots of nodding heads or arms in the air for the first question, and a lot of blank faces for the second. So most of us and none of us, yes? Well, these are just some of the billion-dollar companies that run and rely on the technology that the mobile industry provides and that were made possible by 4G. And in a moment, I'll share with you why we at the GSMA believe that the next decade will see a similar new wave of mobile-led technology unicorns born from the rollout of 5G and destined to shape all of our digital societies. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Louise Easterbrook, and I'm the CFO for GSMA. And it's my absolute privilege to welcome you to the M360 Digital Societies Conference here in Kuala Lumpur. Over the next 3 days, you should expect to be inspired by the digital leaders from the mobile industry and beyond. Our team has put together a remarkable program of speakers and presentations, and I know you're going to find it extremely useful. And to that end, we'll shortly be welcoming to the stage this fantastic group of speakers. We've also brought together a really strong group of delegates. Everyone at this conference has something to contribute to the success of your business or organization. Seek them out, introduce yourself, or ask us to introduce you. We'd be happy to help. Every member of the GSMA team is here to make this event as productive as possible for you and your organization, so please do just ask us. Now, as the Chief Financial Officer for the GSMA, you'll be expecting me to share some numbers with you. And I don't want to disappoint you, so here we go. Try and remember these, as I'll be testing you later. Directly and indirectly, the mobile industry employs 32 million women and men and generates $3.9 trillion in economic value. If the mobile ecosystem was a country, we'd be Germany, the 4th largest economy in the world. Our technology serves the banking, utilities, manufacturing, automotive, entertainment, and retail industries, to name just a few. And we're very well connected too. In fact, 2/3 of the world's population subscribes to a mobile service. And right now, there's never been a more exciting time to be part of the mobile industry, because I truly believe we're on the cusp of the next industrial revolution. A revolution where the possibility of a truly digital society becomes a reality, and that, if planned correctly, will democratize access to public services and see technology-led businesses drive economic growth. It's going to be a revolution built upon digital platforms, measured by 5 key core metrics with questions that we all need to answer. So digital commerce, how much of your business or your economy will be driven by digital commerce? Digital identity, how are you using this to improve security and verification? Digital citizenship, how much will you invest to ensure that everyone has access to public services like healthcare and education? How will you use digital technology to connect the previously disenfranchised? Digital lifestyle, which apps will you be using? And how will these digital services change our lives? And digital connectivity, how connected are you? What are your investment plans and targets? When and where will 4G and 5G roll out? The new industrial revolution is all about intelligent connectivity. That's the combination of 5G, AI, big data, and the Internet of Things. These technologies will transform the way we live, the way we work, and the way we do business. Let's start with 5G. 5G will, of course, be faster, richer, and more immersive. Will provide, faster, richer, and more immersive entertainment, and that will be critical driving revenue growth across the industry. But it's also going to bring a breakthrough in skills and education. With 100 times faster speed and lower latency, 5G will enable real-time distant collaboration. Imagine vocational training, learning to become an engineer, a plumber, or a medic. Now imagine doing it remotely through interacting live with your teacher thousands of miles away while they show you how to design a building, mend a pipe, or mend that broken leg. Your phone will become your classroom, and 5G will make that possible. The second pillar of intelligent connectivity is artificial intelligence. As consumers, we're going to go beyond smart speakers choosing our favorite music to a world where our digital personal assistants know each of us individually, from our taste in movies to our daily healthcare needs. And at industry level, AI will deliver everything from network planning, operations, logistics, to customer care and security. The third part of intelligent connectivity is the Internet of Things. Driverless cars will be connected to smart streets and joined by smart homes and offices that will connect together to bring us smart cities. Here's some more numbers for you. GSMA Intelligence is forecasting that there will be a remarkable 1.2 billion smart vehicle IoT connections by 2025. That's 1.2 billion in just over 5 years. These connections will fuel the autonomous transportation economy. In fact, McKinsey are predicting that autonomous and connected transportation from trains to taxis will account for 40% of city transportation revenue by 2030 and be 30% quicker with 30% more capacity. The fourth area is big data. It's already helping to save lives and bring greater prosperity to remote communities. Let me give you just one example. Tuberculosis kills more people than any other infectious disease in the world, with India the worst affected. In fact, here's another number for you, and it's a very distressing one. Around 5,000 people will die today from TB. But by examining the movement patterns using digital data, we can predict now with some certainty where the next outbreak will happen. That means we can put in place awareness campaigns and treatment centers in advance before that outbreak takes hold. When we combine 5G, AI, big data, and Internet of Things, the possibilities for intelligent connectivity are nearly endless. And when we combine them for good, the results are both life-affirming and quite literally life-saving. 5G and the era of intelligent connectivity that it will power offers a unique opportunity for the developing economies of South and Southeast Asia, and that's to leapfrog technology advances. One of those opportunities is millimeter wave 5G. The rapid urbanization that we see across the region throws up its own unique problems. These include acquiring rights of way, digging and then laying cable, finding available ducts, and retrofitting older buildings. These are the things that keep city planners and developers awake at night. The solution is millimeter wave 5G, which will bring fiber in the air, high-speed internet connectivity to everyone without the high deployment costs and delays associated with fixed infrastructure. If you're in any way connected to the development of new factories, offices, homes, or helping plan connected smart cities of the future, make sure millimeter wave 5G is on your agenda. This is an opportunity to leapfrog the technology of other modern cities. Now, aside from the practical solution millimetre wave 5G provides, there are some significant economic benefits. And these are the numbers that every CFO like me loves. Millimetre wave 5G is forecast to deliver $45 billion US or 0.6% of GDP to this region by 2034, and 8.7 billion in tax revenues across a range of industries. Now, for the mobile industry to deliver on the promises of intelligent connectivity, it's critical that we have a regulatory framework that is fit for the digital age. This framework requires 4 things. Firstly, the timely release of harmonized spectrum with the right conditions. Intelligent connectivity will bring significant economic and social benefits, but not if the industry is burdened with colossal debt from overpriced spectrum auctions. Secondly, the approval of consolidation to drive investment whilst maintaining effective competition. Thirdly, we need to see same rules for equivalent digital services, an even playing field for operators and internet players. And fourth and finally, we must have harmonized international privacy and data protection rules. This framework is something we at the GSMA are working hard to secure. Together, we must all show leadership in technology and in matters of regulation and security, obviously, but we should also demonstrate leadership throughout society, with the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, as our guide. The GSMA and the mobile industry that we represent has committed to supporting these goals, and I'd like to take a moment to look at just one of them, SDG 13, Climate Action, and my final and new favourite number, Net Zero. Not only is this event and every GSMA event carbon neutral, but this week at the United Nations Assembly in New York, we present our vision on how the mobile industry will get to net zero emissions by 2050. 50 mobile operators with around 2/3 of the world's connections, including from this region, these operators, have not only committed to support this industry-wide approach to get to net zero emissions in line with the Paris Climate Agreement, but are now also disclosing their climate impacts, energy and greenhouse gas emissions via the internationally recognized CDP Global Disclosure System. This is the first step towards achieving something truly extraordinary, and I sincerely hope that more of you will join us on this journey. Now, before we introduce our first guest speaker, I just want to say that I hope you will have a productive and enjoyable M360. Don't forget to ask us to introduce people that you'd like to meet. And when you see me around today, come and talk to me about my new favourite number and how your organisation plans to get to net zero. Thank you.
Youth, Bodia, Alishal, Louis, media, would like to express my sincere appreciation to GSMA for according me the honor of delivering this address at this conference, or GSMA Mobile 360 Digital Societies Conference here today. Malaysia is indeed honored to be hosting this event for the first time, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you, our distinguished guests to Malaysia. I hope that all of you would be able to experience the beauty of our natural surroundings, despite the slight haze that we experience today, the variety of delicacies that we have to offer, and of course the wealth of the diverse cultures and heritage found within this nation. Ladies and gentlemen, in December last year, the world reached an important milestone. The International Telecommunications Union, or ITU, declared that global internet access had crossed the 50% threshold. What this meant was that more than half, or specifically an estimated 51.2% of the global population, some 3.9 billion people, are now online. While there was cause for celebration, there was also considerable concerns raised. The data also showed that internet growth was slowing. The reason for this, according to an article by The Guardian, was a lack of skills and a lack of investment. The assessment by The Guardian highlighted the rise of a new kind of digital divide between those who take the internet and its benefits for granted, and those who are unable to obtain access, either because they can't afford access or they live in a region with no connection or they lack the skills to do so. Connectivity, ladies and gentlemen, plays a major part of our daily lives. And over the past 20 years, advances in that technology has resulted in more prosperity and discovery than any other time in human history. Along the way, millions of jobs, products, and services have been created. In October last year, I had occasion to say, and I repeat, access to the internet is not a privilege, nor a luxury. It is a necessity, and indeed, a survival tool. I, ladies and gentlemen, envision a Malaysia where internet connectivity is available to anyone, anywhere, and anytime. As such, making internet connectivity affordable, accessible, and of course of high quality now forms the cornerstone of my ministry's push and policy. These new policies are bearing fruit. Over the last 15 months, ladies and gentlemen, through measures introduced by the government and of course by way of commercial arrangements between the relevant parties concerned, the prices of fixed broadband in Malaysia has been reduced by some 49%, while demand has increased by over 21%. In July 2019, the government approved and announced the National Fiberization and Connectivity Plan, or otherwise known as the NFCP. This RM21.6 billion plan aims to transform Malaysia into a digital nation through the nationwide rollout of digital infrastructure that is robust, pervasive, of higher quality, and most importantly, affordable. The NFCP, ladies and gentlemen, plans to reduce the digital divide by deploying multiple technologies. Apart from fiber networks, other technologies such as wireless networks and satellite will also be deployed and considered wherever conducive. This plan aims to cater for an average speed of 30 megabits per second in almost 98% of populated areas by the year 2023, while providing gigabit availability in selected industrial areas by the year 2020, and to all state capitals by the year 2023. Now, the economic impact of connectivity has been extensively documented. A Deloitte report in 2012 said that a doubling in mobile data use boosted GDP per capita by 0.5 percentage point. In a study by the World Bank, it was concluded that a 10 percentage point increase in fixed broadband penetration would increase GDP growth by 1.21% in developed economies and 1.38% in developing ones. For Malaysia, ladies and gentlemen, such an increase would mean an additional 20 billion ringgit based on the country's GDP for the year 2018. Suffice to say, in an event organized by the GSMA and with an audience representing mobile operators and those from the broader mobile ecosystem, I am sure most of you would be interested to know how Malaysia is progressing in terms of 5G deployment. In November last year, I had announced the formation of Malaysia's 5G task force. The 113 members of the task force are members of organizations and companies representing academicians, manufacturers, telecommunications services providers, ministries, and governmental agencies from both the demand and supply groups of the ecosystem. The task force is scheduled to provide the government of Malaysia with its full report by December of this year. The initial 5G test beds, which were first launched in April this year, in the administrative capital of Putrajaya and Malaysia's global tech hub, Cyberjaya, has now been extended nationwide, with nationwide 5G demonstration projects due to commence in October. MCMC has also conducted a public inquiry on the allocation of spectrum bands for mobile broadband services from 1st of July 2019 to seek input on optimum bandwidth, award mechanism, timeline for allocation process, and broad principles to determine spectrum fees. It is hoped, ladies and gentlemen, that Malaysia's early commitment to 5G, to rapidly deploying 5G test beds and nationwide demonstration projects will position the country as one of the leaders of 5G adoption in the world. During the Asia-Pacific Ministerial Meeting in Singapore in June 2019, the telecommunications and ICT ministers of the Asia-Pacific region recognized that, among others, digital transformation can only be achieved through improved connectivity and access for citizens and businesses, as well as through the development of platforms and enablers. While calling for the promotion, development, and adoption of platforms, the Asia-Pacific ministers also identified interoperability as a means to accelerate take-up of the digital technologies and services. While the promotion, development, and adoption of platforms in most cases are already a given, interoperability of platforms is often an issue. The EU Commission, in its digital agenda, had identified interoperability, or the lack of it, as one of the significant obstacles to a thriving digital economy. Indeed, in today's interconnected world, the interoperability of networks, devices, and services will be key in realizing the benefits of IR 4.0. Underpinning the interoperability of platforms are the principles of trust and security. It is a critical aspect in ensuring the success of our connectivity agenda. Malaysia is continuously working on building our capacity in both these areas. I am pleased to announce that my ministry is currently undertaking a study for National Digital ID. It is envisioned that the implementation of a National Digital ID will provide a reliable authentication system and an important enablement platform in the provision of trusted digital services. Ladies and gentlemen, globally, cybersecurity is rapidly becoming a key pressing issue. Time and time again, reports from around the world not only remind us of the risks and threats, but also the level of increasing sophistication of cyber attacks. This can only add to the complexity of our digital landscape. This is particularly true in a society like ours, which is rapidly becoming online, and coupled with the proliferation of new technologies such as the Internet of Things, IoT, cloud, big data, AI, artificial intelligence, e-commerce, and of course, fintech. Indeed, any cyber incident could quickly escalate into a national security concern if cybersecurity is not established and built into the ecosystem. If I may, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian, seperti yang kita sedia maklum, kementerian saya sedang mempertingkatkan kebersediaan dan akses kepada infrastruktur digital, dan ini telah pun menjadi asas kepada Plan Gentian Optik dan Kesaling Hubungan Negara, atau lebih yang dikenali sebagai NFCP, yang telah dilancarkan baru-baru ini. Kos pelaksanaan NFCP ini dianggarkan berjumlah sebanyak 21,6 bilion ringgit untuk tempoh 5 tahun, bermula daripada tahun ini. Dan kerajaan menganggarkan inisiatif ini boleh mewujudkan sebanyak lebih kurang 20,000 peluang pekerjaan, termasuk kepada mereka yang berada di luar bandar. Peluang-peluang pekerjaan ini merangkumi aktiviti-aktiviti pembinaan, operasi serta penyelenggaraan infrastruktur digital. Bagi memastikan rakyat Malaysia yakin berhadapan dengan aktiviti ekonomi digital serta memantapkan lagi keselamatan pengguna internet, kementerian saya melalui SKMM ataupun Suruhanjaya Komunikasi dan Multimedia Malaysia sedang menjalankan kajian-kajian mengenai apa yang dikenali sebagai ID Digital National. Kajian ini akan mengenal pasti rangka kerja yang sesuai untuk melaksanakan ID Digital National. Kerajaan berharap pelaksanaan inisiatif baru ini dapat melindungi data peribadi pengguna menerusi perkhidmatan dalam talian pada bila-bila masa. Ia akan meningkatkan apa yang penting, iaitu kepercayaan rakyat untuk melaksanakan transaksi menerusi perkhidmatan dalam talian dengan kaedah-kaedah pengesahan yang terkini, selamat dan yang melindungi privasi. Saya juga ingin memaklumkan bahawa ujian 5G yang pertama kali dilancarkan pada bulan April yang lalu di Putrajaya dan Cyberjaya kini telah pun diperluaskan ke seluruh negara. Projek-projek demonstrasi 5G di seluruh negara akan bermula pada bulan Oktober ini. Dengan pelbagai inisiatif yang sedang dijalankan ini, jurang digital boleh dikurangkan dan sekaligus menaik taraf kehidupan rakyat Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, at the heart of it, connectivity, interoperability, trust and security can only be achieved through cooperation and collaboration. It is only through conferences like these, which brings together service and platform providers, developers, users, governments and regulators, that we all can bridge these gaps. I therefore encourage all of you here to come forward with an open mind, to share your expertise and to learn from each other. I would also like to remind you that you are in the heart of KL's Golden Triangle, where the sights, sounds and scenes of Kuala Lumpur come to life. It is near the Malaysian iconic Twin Towers, and there's a lot more to see. I hope you will find time to also explore what Kuala Lumpur and Malaysia has to offer. I would like to thank all of you once again for having invited me here today. I wish all of you here a fruitful and successful conference. Thank you very much for having me, and salam sayangi Malaysiaku.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you. I'd like to invite the Minister's team now for a photo. Do they have enough? Okay. Tony, you're not going anywhere. All right. Next session is with Tony Fernandez. Tony needs no introduction. Co-founder of AirAsia many years ago. Took it from a very ailing company to a global brand, many destinations, many aircraft, and all of that. But that's all we're going to talk about airplanes today. Thank you very much for coming to this conference.
Thanks for inviting me.
It's not an airline conference. It's a digital conference. And I'm sure your presence here speaks about where AirAsia is and where do you want to take it forward. I've been reading about AirAsia. If the airline business that you started was 1.0, 2.0 is getting into ancillary business and selling on the very successful portal, airasia.com. And really, we're here to talk about the platform, which is really the third iteration of the transformation of the company. So why don't you tell us more about that?
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming, and thanks for flying on AirAsia. If you haven't, try us. As Claude has articulated very well, actually, when we started the airline, we saw three opportunities, actually. First was ASEAN. We always believed that the connectivity within ASEAN was poor, and there was a huge opportunity. Everyone was focused on China and India, and we thought ASEAN had a huge opportunity of 700 million people. So we built our airline around ASEAN. Then we saw this ancillary opportunity of selling other services to our customers. And I think this whole digital revolution kind of opened my eyes that actually there was a lot more we could do. AirAsia.com has 60 million unique visitors coming every month. And we transact about $6 billion US dollars. Primarily over 95, 96% is just AirAsia tickets. And I was seeing some of the companies that the CFO put up there, Grab and Gojek and all these guys, who have spent billions acquiring customers. I mean, literally billions, acquiring them by giving away services or discounting, and just huge amounts of advertising dollars. So I thought, well...
They're well-funded. They can afford to.
Yeah. Very well-funded. Maybe less so in the next few months. But because of WeWork. But we... better stop there. But anyway, we saw an opportunity that, well, we already have customers. We fly 100 million people a year. They use our platform. And so why can't we take that data, take those customers, and on-sell more things? And that's what our strategy is over the next few years. Develop AirAsia.com into more than just selling AirAsia tickets. And the ultimate dream is to be as much a lifestyle product as some of the apps that were put up there. And then we built some subsidiary businesses around that. So our fintech business, BigPay, which is doing fabulously well. In 6 months, we have 700,000 customers. Yesterday, we launched a remittance product. And our lending product will be coming out very soon. And we're going to launch in Thailand and Philippines and Singapore in the not-too-distant future. That interacts with AirAsia.com because we can do pay-as-you-loan, pay-as-you-buy services.
Right.
And we think many banks rip off their customers, and many of them fly on us, migrant workers, etc. So we think we can make remittance services much more affordable. Also, many of our travelers who are using BigPay, we don't charge any interchange. So you're getting spot rate. And people are saving about 5% on their traveling expenses when they travel abroad. So that's BigPay. And then we saw, in the same way that we kind of disrupted passenger services, we thought logistics. I think what the digital world has done is opened up a whole new group of e-commerce opportunities. And you have many SMEs, many individuals selling on Instagram, selling on Facebook, but they're generally just selling in-city. Because of logistics, they don't understand how to send the goods to Cambodia or send the goods to Indonesia, etc. So because we have such a dense network, we created something called teleport.social, which will allow, we just launched it 3 days ago, which will allow anyone to register and send their goods anywhere on the AirAsia network. And we're already seeing people, there was someone I met at Publica the other day who sells charcoal to whiten your teeth. A bit late for me. But she looked at my teeth and said, no, it's too bad.
So, Tony, that's your contribution basically to what Minister was describing, the interconnectivity and interoperability.
Yeah.
You've been doing it.
Yeah, and then the third one is our digital currency in terms of big loyalty.
Right, yeah.
And we've set up a VC to kind of help smaller companies. So that's the grand master plan.
Yeah.
Whether we can implement it, we'll have to see. But I've always said to people, we are a technology company. You know, we just happen to own planes because we were the first airline to use the internet to sell tickets 18 years ago. No one else was doing it. We were the first airline to embrace social media. So we do have digital in our roots very much.
Do you aim to be a technology company, period, or an airline technology company?
We're a technology company.
Period.
And having listened to the minister and knowing Ishal, I wish he was my regulator rather than Mavcom, who don't.
We'll
really
leave that
know how to
conversation.
regulate. I mean, he's nice. He comes and visits you. He listens. Mavcom is 360 degrees opposite to that. Sorry, I'll behave now.
I'm going to switch the topic around. Tony,
You're Lebanese. You should be used to confrontation.
not today, though. Tony, when we talk about loyalty, big pay, fintech that you talked about, I mean, these are all kind of skills in terms of data scientists, in terms of AI, machine learning, etc., blockchain. You don't necessarily find in, the company that you founded. So how do you go about and...
Look, I came from the music business. I didn't know anything about airlines. Many people still say I don't. So business is business. You get the right people, you retrain, you reskill. At AirAsia, we're building an academy together with Google to retrain a lot of our staff because many of the staff are going to be displaced through digital technologies. And so rather than lose great, valuable staff, we're retraining that. We're opening that in a month's time. And, we work with universities. There's a lot of talent. And some of those companies up there, some of those guys leave and join us. We just have to adapt.
They're meaning from the internet companies, from...
Yeah, some were put up there.
They were put up earlier by Louise. Okay.
Yeah. They're all green, by the way.
But
you need a bit of red up there.
You partner with some of them for last mile delivery.
Yes. Yeah.
You want to speak about that?
Well, I mean, we're not going to get heavily involved. I mean, we have enough capital in terms of planes, so we're not going to get into the last mile delivery. So there are plenty of ways that we work with the existing industry as well by providing volume. So this teleport.social, we think social e-commerce is going to be much bigger than e-commerce, actually. And so this gives a whole lot of new volume into that last mile and delivery system. So Pete, the CEO of Teleport, is now working with many end-to-end suppliers.
Right. So Tony, you started as purely Malaysia company with 2 aircrafts. Today you consider, geographically speaking, is ASEAN your home or?
Yeah, ASEAN is our home.
ASEAN is your home.
Very much. We have an airline in India. We have an airline in Japan. But ASEAN is really...
Right.
I really believe in ASEAN.
Right.
I think there's 700 million people there. I worked really hard to connect ASEAN. 60% of our destinations were never done before. And, without sounding like Miss World, we have made ASEAN a smaller place, for sure. There's much more connectivity. And so that's really my goal. And everything we did, we came up with a tagline, now everyone can fly, it's about inclusivity. So we want to make financial services inclusive. We want to make social e-commerce inclusive and allow people to reach a larger market. We want to, our e-commerce project, our shop, is about not doing what Lazada or the big boys are doing, but reaching retailers who don't have a chance to sell. So our biggest seller is actually prawns from Sabah, who never even thought of e-commerce. Now he's selling prawns now all over Southeast Asia. And we've got so many of these great products that is in our company called Our Shop. So the thing that drives us is inclusivity. And there's all you guys here have provided such an amazing platform for companies such as ours to exploit that.
I want to go back to the, related to this, to the currency matter, digital currency matter. What's the end game here? What's the vision?
Well, Big Loyalty now has 25 million members. We have lots of points. I've been toying with the idea of calling it Big Cash, but everyone understands cash. I'm a big believer in blockchain. I'm a big believer in digital currency. But, you know, it's still early days. I don't believe in the free float because there's so much speculation. And we can't have our customers 1 minute owning something that's worth $10 and then 2 days later it's worth 10 cents. But we believe blockchain reduces cost, which is my main drive in my life. It's always about reducing cost. And that's why I love the minister's speech so much about affordability, because we believe reducing cost increases the market, and actually margins get better. So we think blockchain is a great enabler of reducing cost. We think digital currency is the way forward. We think it's highly inefficient to go to 3 different ASEAN countries and keep changing currencies,
Right.
and or using a Visa card or MasterCard and being charged various exchange rates. So we believe in it. We don't think there's a mechanism yet. I believe that a stable currency is the way forward, which is linked to a basket of currencies. And but just the mechanism of blockchain and the stability will save you money. So that's our vision, and we think we have an opportunity because we have big loyalty, big cash, whatever we call it, and we're in Southeast Asia.
Right.
And that's our playground.
Okay. Tony, we're in a mobile conference here, and to take this back to mobile, you have an MVNO Tune Talk, which is in Malaysia. Any aims for regional play here?
Yeah. I mean, we'd love to. I just learned today that we can rent towers, so that's another option.
I would like to personally encourage you to.
Yeah, they didn't tell
And
me
the reason
that
is,
then we don't need Axiata anymore.
the big one of the big issues facing
We just use their towers. If the minister gives us spectrum. Forgot about that.
There's one problem which ails the industry, and it's been much talked about by the GSMA at every year in Barcelona at the MWC, which is and the chairman spoke about it, Sunil Mittal, also last year, I believe, which is the problem of roaming, right? It's one of the reasons the industry doesn't score very well in terms of public is the exorbitant roaming fees. So it needs a disturber, somebody like you who can try to do something about it.
There's a few, how do I say this in the right way? We think roaming is crazy. It's come down a lot, and there are decent packages, etc. So to go back to your first question, we would like to be in the region. It fits. We think Tune Talk is also our platform to put some of those apps and connectivity on. We're building our own messenger service, which is a really cool product, actually. It's an everyday use app. So we would like to be in the region. Hopefully we can find partners or towers that we can use. I'm just learning about towers, so kind of like that concept. As long as you're not like Malaysian airports. Is there monopoly towers, or are there lots of different companies?
Tony, digital at...
May not invite me to Barcelona now.
You have, we talked about the airline, we talked about AirAsia.com, and then the pillar of that third iteration, evolution of this is a venture company, Redbeat Ventures. Maybe you want to talk a bit more about that. Redbeat Capital.
So there are some, right now the hottest tech scene is Indonesia, but actually we see so many great startups in Malaysia that, because we're in Malaysia, the tech investors see Malaysia as 30 million, but they don't realize Malaysian companies can go out and have this 700 million market. We also see great companies in the Philippines and elsewhere. So our tech arm, led by Irene Oma, she's the president of Redbeat Ventures, and she has a VC called Redbeat Capital.
Okay.
Invests in companies strategically. So we wouldn't invest in something that has no relevance to AirAsia. And also the companies that we invest in can use the data we have, can use the platform that we have. So we've done 3 or 4 investments, some in the enterprise space. I'm a big believer in collaboration. I don't believe in email. I'm doing my best to close down email in AirAsia. And we've invested in a company called Eco. It's a Thai company that has fantastic collaborative tools and is similar to Slack, but I think better. We're big believers in voice, so we invested in IM Plus, which is Black Eyed Peas, will.i.am's company. And we've taken investments in companies that can add value to AirAsia.com. So enterprise and companies that can use our platform.
Okay, okay. And digital...
And people. So Chris, who started BigPay, I met him in a bar in London and started talking to him, as you do. I was having a Ribena. And I thought, he's a really brilliant guy. He went to Oxford, Cambridge, and MIT, but had really achieved nothing in his life. So I said, come to Malaysia. This is the place. And Malaysia is an amazing country that I don't think I could have built AirAsia anywhere else in the world, though I moan a lot about Malaysian airports. And again, it's a great place to build companies, and it's a great platform place. So Chris has done this with a great bunch of guys.
So going back to Redbeat, do you have LPs as well that you go to market with? LPs, limited partners, investors.
Yeah, we do. Not yet.
Okay.
Coming.
Okay. So far it's using homegrown.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're learning. We're not really, Irene is learning how to do all this. We've probably got our first investor coming in next week.
Okay.
But we screwed up a lot. We didn't understand this LP thing, and everyone thought it was just AirAsia guys deciding everything. So we try to keep it independent.
Okay. All right. Okay. And digital permeates everything that you do. I mean, from cargo business and to the consumer business. We talked about you teaming up with Google, right, on AI and machine learning. So that goes into aircraft maintenance as well?
Yes. So the speech by Laura earlier resonated a lot with us. So we have IoT. We're the first airline to put 24,000 sensors on our aircraft. So we know everything, from the usage of the oven to how we board planes, etc. So all that data is being utilized predominantly for predictive maintenance. We're then putting IoT...
So that's efficiency, that's improved profitability.
Yeah. And we're working on artificial intelligence to predict delays. As an airline, we're always going to have delays. It's the biggest pain of anyone flying. But we're never going to avoid it. And so, but with all the weather information we have, with the predictability, we can. And no one likes the delay, but at least if you know about it, and you're not hanging around KLIA 2, the world's best airport, then you're... Sorry, Minister, I'll behave now. I've only got 1 minute 49 left. And like AirAsia, we're generally on time. So we will do our best to predict it. So it's a very exciting time. Also, we think the worst experience is check-in experience, security, etc. I'm a simpleton. I can't understand why we can't pre-clear people before they arrive in Malaysia, and then it's just using their face to walk through.
Yeah.
We have so much data on them already, and in some cases we have visa. So why can't they be pre-cleared, just show their face and walk through?
Why not?
Why can't we use technology to board people efficiently using their face?
So technology is there, so why not?
Yeah, and that's what we're working on. We want to reduce friction. We want to make less reasons for people not to want to come. And that friction is from cargo, from financial services, from airlines. So while we've talked about the AirAsia.com and Redbeat, the airline has huge pluses. We'd love to find a way that we don't lose your bag. We've had some great stories, right? We lose the individual bag, but sometimes our boys put an entire plane of bags in the wrong plane. That was a long time ago, by the way. But we think technology and 5G is very exciting, that we can use a lot of that to make the experience better.
Okay, wonderful. We're on time.
We're on time, like AirAsia. 10
Always.
seconds early. Without artificial intelligence.
Thank you, Tony. So our next speaker is Dr. Hans Sujayawarya, CEO South Asia for Axiata. Thank you. This is the announcement.
Honorable Minister Yabagya Gobind Singh and Al Ishal, Chairman of MCMC, Louis Easterbrook, CFO of GSMA, and Julian Gorman, Head of GSM Asia Pacific, colleagues from the mobile industry, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed an honor and privilege to be here this morning. Thank you very much for inviting me here to represent Axiata. What I intend to speak to you about this morning is the advent of what I would call fourth platforms, centered on the keywords that have been already espoused this morning, one being inclusion, the other being the challenge of inclusion in Asia Pacific. I believe that wireless connectivity in particular and the mobile phone are pivotal equalizers within what we might term the third industrial revolution. Louis took us back 10 years. Let me take us back 200 years. I believe that the first industrial revolution, which was centered on steam engine and mechanization, followed by the second industrial revolution, electrification and automation at scale, both resulted in what we could call a divided world. There were large disparities created between the rich world and what we might call the less affluent world. The advent of these divides are still being addressed. We are still catching up. We call them emerging markets, we call them frontier markets, we call them the developed world. But we are still catching up on the divides which are created during the first and second industrial revolutions. The third industrial revolution might have also gone in this direction, if not for the mobile phone and wireless connectivity. Post the 1980s and 90s, with the advent of plural connectivity, we started catching up and erasing that word, the digital divide. And I believe today, mobile connectivity is one sphere, and wireless connectivity in general is one sphere in which there's plural access across the entire globe. If you take Asia Pacific, we have a region which is diverse, but also rich in potential, rich in its human capacity. But the human development indices of our nations are not at the same level. In fact, half of Asia Pacific is above average in terms of its human development indices, while the other half is at mid or sub-average levels. So we do have a situation in Asia Pacific where we are not only deficit relative to what we would call the advanced nations, but also we have disparities within our countries and within our region, which further exacerbate the impacts of disparities and divides. So we have to address, as an influencing industry, both the inter-nation disparities as well as the intra-nation disparities. And like I said earlier, the fact that the first and second industrial revolutions have left us significantly behind some of the rest of the world, we in the wireless industry have the opportunity to ensure that IR3 followed by IR4 would deliver equality and inclusivity. Now, the mobile industry, of which we are very proud to be a part of, has been known to deliver an end-user surplus or an economic multiplier of 4 times. For every dollar that you invest in wireless connectivity, you could deliver up to 4 times or $4 to the GDP of an economy. But ladies and gentlemen, let's look at an era where, in contrast to being at the periphery of the economies, at the citizen level, we are now moving into an era where we would contribute directly to the productivity and competitiveness of manufacturing and service industries. Louise early this morning spelled out a wide plethora of industries, both in terms of manufacturing and services, which would be influenced by the next wave of our industry. And these contributions in terms of productivity, these contributions in terms of efficiency to the very heart of our economies could deliver multiples of up to 100x. So I believe that we are now at the very epicenter of our economies in Asia Pacific, or about to be at the very epicenter. So while the fourth industrial revolution and 5G will primarily drive productivity differentials in manufacturing and service industries, we will take pride in moving into the very epicenter of national economies and their global competitiveness. In short, we could play an instrumental role in making our nations competitive in terms of industrial and service deliverables, bring our nations closer to the developed economies, and thereby reduce the disparities that we see on the global economic landscape today. The fourth industrial revolution and 5G, I believe, verticalizes the impact of digital with very granular industrial relevance. What I mean by verticalization is that what was earlier a broad impact now becomes potential for impact in productivity and efficiency on each industry and service vertical. And as I said, this could in fact lead to 100 times or up to 100 times multiple on the investments that we make. This is in contrast to pre-IR4, where we had an era where end-user surplus was delivering a much lower multiple, though still it's significant and something we are very proud of. And interestingly, the compounding of this effect with what I would call augmented connectivity in the 5G world, which brings an all-new dimension to the user experience, the end-user collaboration with industry, manufacturing, and services, would combine to deliver an all-new and all-expanded contribution to Asia-Pacific economies. So it is essential that our nations avoid a digital divide 4.0 across nations as well as within nations, and thereby capture the up to 100x multiplier of a digital equalizer 4.0. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now moving at the speed of light. While the first and second industrial revolutions provided opportunities of decades to catch up, I believe that as we move from Industry 3.0 to Industry 4.0, the time available to catch up is also diminishing very rapidly. So it is imperative that we apply inclusivity principles in parallel with the rollout of IR4 technologies and not after realizing that indeed these technologies have created a digital divide 4.0. And this comes from one of those hard truths about technology. If a technology empowers, if a technology drives productivity transformations, the transformation that the technology delivers will also, unfortunately, be proportional to the divide it engenders between adopters and laggards, and societies and communities who are included versus excluded. So the sharper the innovation, the sharper the divide. And it's therefore very important that when we talk about the phenomenal transformations that we would see in IR4 and the 5G world, that we also address in parallel the opportunity to include every single segment of the population. What does verticalization mean to all of us? I believe that verticalization of this digital impact in IR4 makes the expansiveness of what I would call an app space a key inclusion lever. It's all about mediating these fantastic technologies through millions of applications to manufacturing and service industries. This mediation is what I would call an augmented fourth platform. We have the third platform, which is the technologies which form IR4, big data, cloud, augmented reality, IoT, etc. And then we have the challenge of building the app space which would mediate these technologies very quickly, not in 5, 10, 15 years, but in the next 5 years, mediating these technologies to micro, small, medium, and large enterprises. And these applications must also satisfy the fundamental dimensions of inclusion. I believe to use the 5 A's of inclusion is sometimes useful, though it's just spelling out an acronym. Affordability, clearly. Applicability or relevance, also clearly. Availability, meaning ubiquity. And less obviously, affinity. The aspects of trust, the aspects of alignment to cultural sensitivities, and in the emerging era, the dimension of privacy and digital trust. The 5th one, which applies to a 5G era and also to the 4th IR, is amplification or achieving web scale. Because if you do not achieve web scale, we would not be able to deliver any of the other dimensions of inclusion. So in terms of a vision, I believe it is very simple. We should make automating a small farm in a rural area of any of our countries via IR4, the cloud, combining e-commerce, identity, and other pivots of the 4th IR, as simple as pairing our lifestyle device with our smartphone and analyzing, for example, health statistics or getting an alert on how we should look after the state of our own health. So it should be as simple as that. How does this happen, and what role do we play? At the bottom of this slide, I have shown not only 5G, but 4G, because indeed, 4G can deliver almost everything in terms of the first sphere and the first phase of automation of industries and of manufacturing and service industries, which 5G can. So we should not wait for 5G. We have 4G, we have technologies such as NB-IoT, we have advanced Wi-Fi. And combined with Industry 4.0, the next challenge is to build the augmented 4th platform, which in fact is as simple as a service creation environment. Because if we were to create all the APIs between the technologies, both IR4 as well as basic connectivity, and these APIs would be the basic telco APIs plus enablers such as blockchain, AI, machine learning, identity, commerce APIs, plugins, et cetera, et cetera. There are so many words describing these connectors between the platform, service creation platforms, and the technologies which underlie them. These would connect into developer communities. They would connect into SIs or system integrators and other ecosystem players, and also connect to the large industry-grade software suppliers. But interestingly, as we move from large enterprise to micro-enterprise, the challenge becomes more and more exacerbated in terms of the challenge of achieving simplicity. And if we are to achieve simplicity, the enablement that we provide developers to create flexible and multifaceted applications which are cheap becomes even more important. So this stack is something that we have at Axiata experimented with in the 4th IR or the 3rd IR era, where we've exposed the telecom APIs, basic ones, including SMS, LBS, or location-based services, SMS, notifications, payments, identity, and exposed these via the centerpiece here, which is the Apigate telco API environment of Axiata, to enable developer communities of varying complexity and size, both long tail and short tail, to convert these APIs into services across consumers, SMEs, and large enterprises. The scorecard that we have achieved in the Asia-Pacific region and in line with our vision of advancing Asia has been phenomenal. Today, we have some 2,000 plus APIs published, including those of connected devices, 12,000 over active developers engaged in our platforms, 500 connected enterprises, and over 200 empowered startups. And this is across 6 geographies through an interoperable and multi-MNO environment. So this is a humble exposition of what power this API exposition can achieve in a 4G world and a 3rd IR world. And this could be extended, I believe, through using a much broader spectrum of technology enablers developer platforms which are cleverer in terms of translation of these technologies to the developer communities, now being verticalized in their impact across various industries and serving both government and enterprise. Importantly, this needs to be supplemented with what I would call the citizenry 4.0. Human beings who are trained, who are accustomed and trusting of this new workplace. And the combine of this workplace, this workforce, and the enabling technologies for industry, I believe will create a new Asia-Pacific economy. So finally, I believe that we need to work together, governments and the telco sector across APAC, to retool the enabling platforms for an inclusive fourth industrial revolution. The verticalization opportunities are indeed very significant and are potent levers for economic and social development. Government policies should therefore fundamentally target maximum inclusion. And we heard from the Honorable Minister this morning that Malaysia is well on its way to creating a platform for inclusive connectivity in the broadband sphere. Ubiquity alone will not be sufficient, and we need to think about the inclusive application platforms which empower industries. Scale across both large, medium, and small. The cross-sector regulation will now become important since, as we spoke this morning, there is very much a cross-sector element to the impact that we can create. MNOs need to retool and learn new tricks, so to speak, to play in the application enablement sphere, not developing applications, but enabling those who develop applications and take them out and transfer and mediate these complex technologies to the smallest of businesses across Asia-Pacific. Sustainable investment, where governments need to, I believe, play an investing role together with all of us in this industry, since the dividends that these technologies can deliver to the Asia-Pacific economies can be multipliers of up to 100x. So there is a big return on investment on the investments that government and MNOs could make in this sphere. Very importantly, ladies and gentlemen, we need to work together to eliminate the risk of a digital divide 4.0. I thank you for inviting me. Very good morning.
Thank you. Dr. Hans Wijesariya, thank you. I would like now to invite Alban Murty. Alban is the CEO of Digi. We can hear you?
Perfect.
Perfect, okay. So, Alban, let me start basically with the Minister's speech and the National Fiberization Connectivity Plan, also the theme of this conference, the connected platforms.
Minister is still here, by the way.
That's the reason I'm asking.
Okay.
And the GSMA is also here. If you can connect the dot into DG, what are you doing from those two aspects?
Yeah, Claude, thank you. I think if you look at, just not Digi, but if you look at the industry is growing through a massive change. You've heard Vijaya talking about that, you heard Luis talking about that, you heard the Minister talking about expectations. And the change, as much as we industry want to believe we are driving the change, is actually not driven by us. It's driven by consumers. And that change is coming from things that are in our ecosystem, things that have been out of the ecosystem. You've heard Tony talking about AirAsia and how AirAsia has changed the way people use digital bookings of tickets, purchases, wallets, so on and so forth. So as much as we industry believe that we are driving a lot of the change, it's actually not us. It's actually the consumers' demand and the consumers are moving that direction. The question to us is, how do we cope with that change and bring about the least amount of friction for consumers to enjoy those capabilities or the digital services? Then there's about digital inclusion. How can you make sure that everybody in every part of segments that we all serve can also enjoy those benefits? So Digi, for example, is very much of a mass consumer product and service provider in Malaysia. We don't really segmentize by we only serve high-end customers or we only serve a different variety of segments. We actually want to serve all Malaysians. Now, how do you serve all Malaysians? We're trying to simplify that. Digital actually gave us that benefit. So we transformed We really transformed the way we serve our customers. We've been present for more than 20 years. We've had a great time transforming the organization to be able to serve them.
And you've been with the company for a good bunch of those years. You
Quite a
joined
lot
in
of years,
2002.
16 years, yeah, quite a lot of years, yeah. I stopped counting after 10. Yeah.
So you've seen the evolution, to use your words, the users, the customers' behavior changes and expectations. Are you always in a reactionary mode in that point of view, or are you trying to?
Yeah, sometimes, so to be very honest, sometimes you are reactive, but that's okay. You don't have to be first in every single aspect, but you need to be first in some of your strategic decisions. So we made a decision 4 years ago, I think, remember, 4 or 5 years ago, I told the company that we are not going to be a telecommunication company.
Right.
We're going to be an internet company, and everybody looked at me a little bit strangely.
5 years ago.
4.5 years ago when I became CEO, I just said, we're going to become an internet company, not a telco. And everybody didn't really understand that, but I just said that, our consumers don't really care whether you're going to be mobile, fixed, Wi-Fi, whatever. They just want a company that they can trust, has the good service, good recommendation, connectivity, and takes you to wherever you want to go. What do we need to do for that? So that's when we started to ask our questions, and really we started looking at front end, what do we need to change?
Okay.
Because changing the back end, talking to engineers and trying to get them to change is not an easy task. You need to have a transformation for that alone. But changing, if you put in front and say, the front end, how do you want customers to experience the simplicity of the brand? And then that slowly translates what you need to do to the back end. So it was a great journey. The teams have embraced it and were very brave to try and do something different. Because 20 years of operation. And then you suddenly want to go digital in the way we serve our customer, the way we sell.
Which means a new operational model.
Yeah, operational model. So we for example, we have thousands of dealers out there in the channels, and we serve most Malaysians. 70% of Malaysians are still on prepaid, and there are about 60 to 70% of Malaysians are still on prepaid, and then the rest are on postpaid. How do you serve the various segments that use payment mechanisms as a difference? There is really absolutely no difference from a quality experience whether you're a prepaid or postpaid customer, right? But how do you serve them? And you have channels serving the open market. You have then specific flagship stores serving the higher-end markets where they want a device and a bundle and a plan. Everything has stayed the same from 20 years ago. The difference is that customers don't have to interact with you physically, right? They can do it digitally, they can do it in our channels, they can reach us anytime they want. So what we did was we really digitized the way they interact with us and gave more empowerment to the consumer than to ourselves. And we let customers determine when they want to roam. So Tony's example of roaming. If you're a Digi customer, and I hope most of you are, if you're not, there's a booth outside. But if you're roaming, we decided that why does roaming have to be so painful? Right? And I messaged Tony just now and said, you need to switch. Because you can now activate roaming as you land in a country just by the app that we have. On the app, you can also control the way you want to pay your bills. If you want to pay it for yourself, your husband, or your wife, or your kids, or whoever. So a lot of control. So you can activate an internet plan even if you're not an internet customer on the spot from the app. So that's one the way we did that transformation. But it required a lot of change on sort of mindset that we have to be happy to let go some of these control elements and give it to our customers.
And this transformation takes new skills within the company?
Interesting. Yes and no. So we had to train a lot of our employees, and our employees...
And my former employer used to call that the right angle turn.
Yeah, right or left. I think it's a turn, regardless, right? But I think employees also understood that if we were going to be an internet company, that we cannot stay static, or we cannot stay the same. And we really needed to sort of make some improvements on ourselves. We invest a lot of talent. We have 1,700 employees nationwide, smallest in terms of number of people. But we sort of train our employees to sort of do new things. And we also train the ecosystem. So we train dealers to move from physical to digital. And we have an app, just like we have for consumers, for the dealers. And the dealers, when we first did it 2 years ago, thought we were crazy. right? But today, 100% of our dealers are using digital apps
Okay.
to transact with our customers.
So there was a bit of resistance up front, but then they embraced it.
Yeah, and the resistance is because a little bit of inclusion. Louis' point on inclusion, why is it that we only have to have 4,000 dealers serving these group of customers? Why couldn't anyone be a dealer? Why couldn't someone, out in a rural market, a small, tiny convenience store, be able to be a Digi dealer? Why all the limitations? So digital actually enabled that, and that person today makes some money selling a reload or paying a bill or collecting. So I think you really need to think about telling that story to employees. Why do we do this? And then the employees, coming back to your question, the employees embraced it. And then they went for training, development, and stuff. So 3 years down the road, we're not done, and it's never done, but it's a fantastic journey.
Okay. So what's next? Anything you can share with us?
Yeah. Next is really we need to also now look at the back end. Remember, I started with the front end. So the back end is how do we simplify really the way we operate?
Okay.
And we have transformed ourselves to say that we, again, as we don't know everything that customers want to use the connectivity for, we also don't know all the capabilities and technology coming ahead of us. And there we need partners. The things that the minister talked about, Louis talked about, yes, we can do it, but you can do it by pushing and shoving each other and finding out and running some tenders and stuff, or you can actually leave some of those things for experts and people who know what they're doing to do it. So we leverage a lot on partners, both local and abroad. So, for example, we work with tower companies, we work with other partners, we even work with industry players to sort of complement each other when we go into coverage of areas where we should share infrastructure rather than everybody redeploy something in the same place, right? So there is a mindset change. What's coming is a lot more sharing. Industry sharing is something that I'm trying to get along with the industry to push that forward. I'm also looking at partners that can take our people and train them for what's coming. And then whether they are rebadged or whether they are still DG employees or whether they are sitting in the DG building but doing something much broader, that's the opportunity.
Right.
And I think for Malaysians, that's a great opportunity because Malaysia has many things going, and besides all the great things the minister spoke about, Malaysia has a diverse workforce, language, capability, skills, competence. And if we are able to transform Malaysians by getting some of these partners to actually build that competence here, we could be a digital competence hub.
Okay. Back to your sharing, this is by necessity, moving into 5G over the next few years, it's going to be more a necessity than a desire, given the cost involved.
Yeah, so I think sharing is, in Malaysia, sharing on sites has started a long time ago. So between all the operators, Celcom, Axis, Digi, Mobile, and Telecom Malaysia, everybody else, we use sites which are either built independently and we share that site. So EDOTCO, for example, provides that. Some of the state companies provide that. So that's been quite the norm. But the next step of sharing is really, it's going to be painful, but it's going to be necessary because you don't want to duplicate investments in the same places. Yeah. How do you spread that? How do you make sure that connectivity is spread? The minister talked about it a little bit, but it's beneficial for us because it is efficient. It's quicker, faster, and better to do. So we are hoping that we will actually move into a much more structured phase of sharing.
Okay, wonderful. And Telenor is a large investor in Digi. Any sharing of best practices that you have? What's the contribution in terms of the things that we talked about in your transformation journey?
Yeah, so being part of Telenor Group, so we operate like a Malaysian company here, and DTAC, Alexandra is in the crowd, and she operates in Thailand as one of our sister companies. So in Asia, we have a large footprint. In Europe, we have a footprint. There's a lot of cross-collaboration and sharing, of course, from a sourcing perspective, from digital partners, from vendors, and all that stuff. One of the things that are coming out quite nicely is the new model changes on IT stacks, and also on network capabilities. So we learn a lot from them on sharing. For example, on networks, 5G in some of the Scandinavian countries are being shared across operators and looked at how can they actually deploy common networks. But also IT. There's a lot of consolidation of IT in the Scandinavian operations in terms of that. Roaming is another good example of how Europe roaming has come. But Asia has also taught Europe a lot of things.
Right.
And I want Asians to be proud of what we've taken back to Europe as well, in terms of driving channel transformation and customer engagement on the apps.
So,
Asia is far ahead of some of the European countries in terms of engagement of users on apps.
Albert, perhaps using your terminology, if I may simplify it, front end is Malaysia, Asia. This is very much homegrown.
Consumer.
And maybe lessons learned and you apply throughout on the back end.
Absolutely. Yeah, good way of putting it.
Yeah, okay. How are we doing on time? Because I noticed this wasn't working initially. It says it has 3 minutes now.
I took Tony's 10 seconds.
We still okay? Okay. All right, okay.
2 minutes, yeah.
Albert, so do you have your mobile company, but you have a fiber infrastructure as well?
Yeah, so on fiber, we have a fiber infrastructure that we build our own, but we also have a fiber collaboration with Celcom that has started a couple of years back. So we have close to about 9,000 kilometers of fiber deployed, but it's mainly for backhaul and fiber to the sites that we use it for. We then leverage a lot of the fiber that is already in the country, because you don't want to redeploy fiber next to fiber that's there. So we actually lease a lot from Telekom Malaysia, FiberRail, Fibercom,
So your
TDC.
fiber is mostly to support your mobile operations,
operations.
versus reaching the
Yeah,
customers.
and it's mainly for congested sites. It's mainly for indoor buildings, areas where we want to go coverage in, but it's mainly to support the mobile side. We've also now started going into a little bit of fiber to the home in certain pockets and exploring that opportunity.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question? No,
Yes.
it's okay. Yeah.
When is 5G coming in Malaysia?
Yeah, I think 5G, the steps that we have taken now as an industry and with the government is that we're going into a 5G, we started with the 5G showcase. And the 5G showcase was really to sort of bring to Malaysians an awareness of what 5G potentially can bring through the use cases, and that was launched now. We're going to a phase now that where 5G, we're looking at the capabilities of taking that out to some of the key market centers and doing some real field trials. So we're doing a field trial, for example, right now with a place in Putrajaya called Reka Labs, which is basically looking at Reka Space, which is basically looking at using it as a 5G lab for startups to come and use and play and try. And so we're opening it up to MDEC, we're opening it up to a few other corporations, UPM, university students, Crest, and a few partners to come and try. The next state of that is trying then 5G in one of the northern parts of Malaysia, which is on Langkawi, and trying to see if we can do a little bit more. So the country's approach is a step-by-step deployment of 5G, building towards what the minister talked about, an ambition for business 5G launch in Q3, Q4 2020, but it's a step.
Okay.
And I think the step is so important because we don't want to go out there and say that Malaysia, everybody's going to have 5G from next year, because it is not the case. Today, if you look at 5G versus 4G, the countries that have deployed 5G are still using it for the same services that 4G is on. And we talked about that in GMC Roundtable yesterday. It's games, it's video. We need to really then think about what do we use 5G for and when. Fixed wireless access, yes, but beyond that.
And 5G needs spectrum. Spectrum comes from regulator. You're on stage now. Minister is here, as well as the chairman of MCMC. What's your
I don't think... So I didn't even mention spectrum, because if the country decides on doing 5G, then you should just assume that spectrum will come. So I didn't even talk about that. The limitation for me is not about spectrum. The limitation to me is about what do we use that service for? And I think how do we actually then take it out to communities, be it the business or consumer? Those are critical decisions that we need to take before we roll it out.
Whenever it comes, it comes.
Whenever it comes, it comes. But I think that's the steps. Okay. And you need to think about affordability, devices, and which segments are we trying to serve.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Thank you, Albert.
Thank you, Claude.
Thank you. And next, I would like to invite CEO of Maxis, Gökhan Ut. Hello. You're going to take this? Okay.
Oh, by the way, I think this is yours, right? The CEO without two mobile phone.
I knew you always wanted a Digi phone line.
So, Gökhan Ut is the CEO of Maxis. different path than Alburn. We said who is an old-timer with Digi. Gökhan moved to Maxis a year ago, last year, and then promoted to CEO this year. Gökhan, I'm going to start the same question basically with you as I did with Alburn on the Minister's National Fiberization and Connectivity Plan. What is Maxis' role?
First of all, thank you very much to GSMA for organizing this conference, and all of you who've participated both on stage and as audience. It's great to be here, and it's a great opportunity for all of us to share and to move forward. So I really appreciate the opportunity. Second, yes, digital society, our topic, our vision, where we want to go. As Maxis, we believe we have a very important role to play in this vision. If you look at the 5 pillars of digital society as identified by the GSMA, which I fully support, digital connectivity and digital identity are the backbone of this digital society vision. And as operators, mobile operators especially, we are the party that is responsible for these 2 backbones, and we see this as not just industry responsibility, but as a responsibility of Maxis for the whole nation. Yes, the changes have been driven by the ecosystem partners. I agree with Alburn on that sense. Consumers and industries are changing, but I think we have to give ourselves as mobile operators who have really enabled this change. If it hadn't been for the 4G, we couldn't have had all these different green companies upon the screen if it hadn't been for the widely available fast 4G in every part of the country. So this is our starting point. And we believe as Maxis, it goes beyond connectivity and identity. That's why this year in February, we've decided to take it one step further and help the other 3 pillars of digital society, the digital citizenship, digital commerce, and digital lifestyle, to be enabled by Maxis. This is why we've declared our new vision of moving beyond a mobile company to transform our company to a converged solutions operator. This is how we coined that, because we believe we can do more than just connectivity and identity in the journey to digital society.
You've announced a tie-up with Astro as well. Is it part of your convergence story that you're mentioning?
Yes, a small part of our convergence story. Convergence story starts with a very simple plan of 3 main pillars, as we coin it as the Max plan in the company. Starts with M for Maxis for all, similar to what Alburn was talking about. Digitalization is about inclusivity. So we would like Maxis and its converged solutions to be used by everybody, and this goes to every single individual in Malaysia, every single company, big or small, and all the corporations and government companies used by Maxis solutions and services. Second one is, in order to make that easy, really we need to make sure that this experience is seamless. This is an unmatched and personalized experience with the power of big data and AI. And the third pillar of our strategy is going back to who will make this possible, which goes to Maxis Way, the efficient and effective organization to enable all this change. So these are the 3 pillars that we are started this journey in February this year, trying to converge the mobile operator into a converged solutions company. And we are committed to do this by investing over the next 3 years, over and beyond what we have invested historically in the last 5 years.
Okay. So given this convergence story, you're a Malaysian company, pretty much today. What's in it for Malaysia and what you're doing?
Malaysia has been growing quite well in the last 2 decades. It has utilized, again, going back to the power of 4G and LTE has really utilized well a good infrastructure, not in telecoms, but infrastructure in general, and has been able to generate economic growth. And now it's time to take this to the next step. The next step that requires really not just a 4G and LTE connectivity, but a larger bandwidth, faster speed, lower latency, and ability to connect more devices kind of infrastructure. That's why we as Maxis, we really applaud government's NFCP initiative, which really takes this necessity into account to prepare Malaysia's next economic growth, the digital society, behind a more powerful connectivity. And this is where fiber and 5G comes into play. And this is what we are supporting. And this is where we would like to spend our extra investment capability in order to build this connectivity across the country, both in terms of fiber and 5G. It's again not just enough to bring the connectivity, coming back to the solutions point. We were just discussing before the event started, why do we need to wait for 5G, for example? A lot of the technologies, for example, to be able to connect devices, to be able to connect to things, are already available. Take IoT technology or narrowband IoT technology, which is already available. The problem is the industries, the companies that really need to take these technologies to their customers are not really ready, and they need help in order to move in this journey. Okay. This is where our enterprise, and this is where our Maxis enterprise journey comes in. We would like to help companies in Malaysia, both small companies, medium, large, and government offices and corporations, to help with their journey so that they can actually focus on what they are good at, what their core competencies are, so that we can take the connectivity to secure connectivity, to managed services, to cloud services, to IoT services. With our support, they can really focus on their customers and their end interaction with the customer. This is the first area that we believe we can contribute, and these are the steps that we're taking. Second part is, how can we help the consumers to move faster in this journey? To your point, for example, the Astro partnership that we have is a good example of this. Mm-hmm. How can we help our consumers, individuals, to better navigate in this ever-complicating environment? Proliferation of the digital services is increasing. It's becoming more and more difficult to choose and to navigate. And again, this is where we see as Maxis, where we can help our end users and customers to navigate their way around this ever-complicated digital world. Okay.
I want to go back 5G. When you mentioned it earlier, were you referring in terms of connectivity to fiber substitution, or are you referring to 5G and to mobility?
Where we're moving towards is a fit-for-purpose connectivity. So we don't usually think about these as different technologies. It goes back to the needs of the customer, the needs of the enterprises. So fit-for-purpose technology, 5G can complement fiber in certain cases, but at the same time, 5G can actually replace fiber in certain cases. What we need to think through is what's the need, what's the end usage, and really build this ubiquitous network that all these different technologies are utilized in the right manner.
Right, okay. Gökhan, all of these initiatives, inclusiveness, etc., that you mentioned earlier, all of that rings a dollar sign. It's a lot of investments. Are you doing it alone? Are you doing it with partners? What's the best way to achieve this?
First of all, I don't think it's just about the dollar. Cost and cost sharing is one part of collaboration, but more importantly, it's speed to market. We as Maxis, we believe in collaboration, we believe in partnership, not just to share the cost, but really to ensure that the speed of implementation, the speed of rollout is what this country, Malaysia, deserves.
So you're talking about collaboration partnership with other MNO here.
There are different levels of partnership, and we would like to see partnership in all levels. At the connectivity level, as Albern was alluding to, at the industry level, we are already collaborating, and we need to collaborate more at this infrastructure level to share the costs of fiber, to share the costs of transmission, share the costs of 5G. This is what you will be seeing more in the country. But again, there are more collaboration opportunities, starting with industry collaborations, in order to make sure that the industries in Malaysia really help achieve this digital society. So we have announced a couple partnerships with leading banks. We have announced partnership with leading estate development. That's the industry partnerships that we would like to work together to create the solutions that these industries need, to co-create these solutions together. A third layer of partnership is with the international players. International players coming in Malaysia and offering their services to Malaysian corporations. As last week we have announced another one, for example, cooperating with companies to bring the SD-WAN solutions, the fit-for-purpose networks to Malaysian companies with international partnerships. You will see more of this kind of partnerships too. And the final layer of partnership is partnering with government agencies, with MDEC, our partnership on IoT development, or Penang government, Sarawak government, our partnership in order to help these states and government agencies to reach more innovation and startups is the final layer of partnership that you will see more and more, so that we can really enable our platform, our services, our network, open it up for development on top of it. And again, we would like to do more. And I would like to take this opportunity to make a call on more partnership in Malaysia among the operators, among the verticals, among the global players, so that we can really accelerate the journey to digital society.
Right. I mean, partnership among operators, the case has always been there, will accelerate even more given upcoming 5G. But partnership with the verticals, that's given IoT, you've mentioned IoT a number of times, that's going to be achieved with the industry. And you're a significant player in the enterprise market, correct?
Yes. That goes back to how can we enable the digital society beyond the connectivity layer. To your point, working with the industry verticals is the best way to really identify the areas where better connectivity can help, because we are not experts in these verticals. We would like the expertise of the vertical to identify the challenges, identify the opportunities, so that we can really build the solutions that they need. And you will be seeing more of this industry vertical partnerships in the future.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gökhan. Thank you. So we're a little bit behind time, so thank you very much for staying with us in this morning session. It's not finished. Wing Lee here, CEO of YTL, but is the last presenter in this morning session about connected platforms, but we're going to give you half an hour break. So we reconvene in 30 minutes. Thank you very much.